everyone. I hope you have had a very productive day so far. What I'm going to talk to you about is the research that we are conducting at Chatham House and the way we approach cybersecurity and cyber risk management. But before I proceed, how many of you here know what Chatham House is? Please raise your hands. I can see 1, 2. Okay, well, Chatham House, unlike most of the previous speakers here coming from the industry, is a think tank. It's a research institute. It's called the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and it's based in London, and it does policy research. So we don't only look at technical stuff, but actually, having said that, primarily we look at policy issues. We look at what Trump is doing in the US, which is really interesting nowadays. We look at what is going on here with Brexit. Actually, every event that we have at Chatham House ends up discussing about Brexit, but I can promise you that this presentation won't be that. So why am I here, and why should you care about risk management in the maritime sector? I'm not working, you're not probably working in the maritime sector, so why should we care? Well, we should care because of that thing right there, not HMS Queen Elizabeth and the discussion around it, but we should care because the shipping industry and the maritime sector is using an asset, its most valuable asset, the ship. And the challenge behind it is that this asset, unlike any other industrial control systems that you may have that you work on the industry, is a remote unit that is not with us. And it is, in most cases, carrying really valuable cargo, even up to amounts of millions. And since this asset is away from our bases, from our headquarters as a shipping company, we should be prepared to deal with anything that may occur in that, since if a cyber attack, for example, occurs on a ship, we will lose probably connectivity with them. So the ship should be in a position on its own, the people on board the ship should be in a position on their own in order to be able and deal with that. So they should be in a position to manage the risk of being cyber attacked. The shipping industry has been doing that for several years for safety and for security after 9/11, but we will see that they find it really challenging to understand why they should look at cyber and why they should invest in cyber. So I don't want to bother you much with numbers, but our research has indicated that 80% of cyber events that occur on board the ship are coming from the crew network. In the shipping industry, what has been implemented lately is that on board ships they conduct network segmentation. So we have the business network and the crew network. But they all come down to the same IT infrastructure, so if you manage to bridge the crew network, you can gain access to the business network. So 80% of incidents occur because people fall victims of 97% of malware that is aiming at them. We, humans, are the weak link, not only in the shipping industry, but everywhere. Look around you. How many of you are using smartphones now? How many of you are connected to the Wi-Fi, to the free Wi-Fi that we are provided right here? Well, this is the main risk for you currently in this very room. But why should we look at the shipping industry? Because there are several examples right there, some of which you probably know, that illustrate the importance of protecting the ships. I will only mention the first and the last one and tell you that back in 2010, a Greek shipping company suffered the most successful attacks from pirates in the Gulf of Aden, in Somalia. And that happened because, as the forensic indicated, because pirates paid hackers to gain access to the company's data and to the company's plans for shipping when they would transfer through that specific area. And the way they did that, the way hackers managed to do that, is by Wi-Fi light bulbs. Why? Because, as the previous speaker said, no one in the company, of course, they wanted to use the new gadgets and they wanted to be pioneers and they wanted to be the best in the industry. You know what? We have state-of-the-art offices and we have Wi-Fi light bulbs right now. But no one changed the default username and the default password. So that was the gateway to the shipping company's files, and that's why the company suffered 8 successful attacks. The last one that occurred about no more than 20 days ago, within a week, 2 major ports in the world, the port of Barcelona and the port of San Diego, suffered great cyber attacks. The port of San Diego, up until a week ago, was not able still to recover. That shows us 2 things. First of all, we have not learned from the lessons of the past. We have not learned from these cases. But secondly, that most of the port authorities and most of companies engaged in shipping use more or less the same infrastructure. So since a hacker managed to gain access to one port, they looked at which other port is actually using the same equipment, and it was a piece of cake for them to gain access to that. But what do we do at Chatham House for that specific project? Well, we have 2 ongoing research projects that focus on cybersecurity in the maritime transportation system. We look at mapping the threats. We look at the existing regulatory framework, both within the international spectrum, but also on a national level, looking at specific areas of the world. And we also try to suggest best management practices for that. The way we do it is by the 3 next bullet points. We write expert comments. We publish what we find from our research on our website and other op-eds and articles in newspapers. We do what we call the Global Insight Workshop, where one of our members come to us and say, I want to look at this specific thing. For example, marine insurance regarding cyber. So we do workshops. We bring people together and discuss and analyze these things. And lastly, we try to go beyond being abstract, which in most cases a policy research is, to be honest. And we try to do practical simulation exercises. We're not going into much technical depth, but we look primarily, we have people from, we have managing directors, we have the CEO, the COO, and the CTO, and other people with O's at the end, from big companies. And we sit down and we do a crisis response cyber simulation exercise to see how they will handle the incident, how they will handle the media, how they will handle their dissatisfied customers. So we are following a holistic approach in order to try and show what the problem is in the industry. But why do we do that? When I joined Chatham House, I wanted to do, because my background is from the Navy, I'm a Navy officer, I was a lieutenant commander in the Greek Navy for 19 years. I wanted to do information sharing in cyber, I wanted to do early warning platforms, I wanted to do more sophisticated stuff. But we did a short research, we did a short market analysis with my director, and we realized that the industry was not really aware of what cyber is for the sector specifically. So when I started my project about a year ago, if you asked me back then what is the level of awareness, I would show you that specific cartoon up there. That's how people in the shipping industry understood cyber. Well, I can tell you a year later that this is actually getting better, but it is not getting better at the level that we want to. And why is that? There are three primary reasons for that, for the shipping industry, but I'm sure this will apply to your industries as well. First of all, there's no apparent ship-related cyber attack. There's no 9/11 in shipping regarding cyber. Secondly, there is no mandatory framework currently, but there will be in 2021. But for the shipping industry, this is still far because the third bullet, other regulations that are coming into play in 2019 and 2020 are the ones that the industry is mainly focusing on. And the problem here is the profit margin. Because of oil prices going down for the last 2 years now, the profit margin is very small, so ship owners only invest in emerging technologies that will bring them more profit, or B, to things that are mandatory. So cyber for now is not, so they don't really care, to be honest, about it. But the problem comes down if we look at these three different graphs. They are from the Crew Connectivity Report that was published in spring this year. And the first one says, how important is internet connectivity on your selection of working for a shipping industry? So how important it is for you to work on a ship that has internet. And you can see 3 out of 4 said that it is important, and out of these numbers, 2 out of 3 said that it plays a key role in their selection. If you combine that with the second one, which is not very clear, but it shows the level of connectivity that has increased in various ship types over the years. It has doubled or tripled from 2015 to 2018. You can understand how big of an issue this is. But the misunderstanding comes on the third graph, which when these people were asked who is responsible for cybersecurity, only 2 out of 10 said that all of us are responsible. Most of them said the master of the ship, which is the CEO in plain terms, or someone else, but not themselves. So even though they wanted internet connectivity, they didn't believe that they were responsible for cybersecurity. And these, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to go through all of them, of course, but this is the ship, and these are all the components on board the ship that may be affected. So you can understand the level of risk in every day's operation on board the ship. If you combine that with the fact that the average ship age is about 10 to 15 years, who can tell me here what sort of software, Windows software, did we use about 10 to 15 years ago? Yep. XP. Most of the ships nowadays have Windows XP installed in them. And the problem, because shipping companies have understood that, they have gone to their vendors and they have asked them, can we update that? And the answer is no. The answer is no, because these IT systems are connected to the OT systems on board the ships. These are the systems that control the engine. These are the systems that control the reefers. These are the systems that control the cargo management and the container management on board the ship. So if an update occurs, the vendors are not aware of what the problems of compatibility may be within the new Windows version and the old ICS system on board the ship. And the shipping industry does not have the luxury to wait and have a ship standing by for a few days to check that. So you can understand the problem. Our research has looked at specific case studies. And this brings me back to what I said about us being the weak link. 3 cases here that occurred in Clarksons, in the Port of Antwerp, and a drilling unit, all have the same denominator. This was the reason that these incidents occur, us, ourselves. So it is important to try and get the message across to ourselves to develop a cyber culture, as we call it. And how can you do that? Well, I was part of a project in a big corporate industrial company, and we prepared a 45-page cyber policy. Wow. And we sent that to all staff. You get all these all-staff emails that no one reads. And that turned out to be true, because only even 20% of our IT staff, of the company's IT staff, opened that PDF document. So we were really frustrated and tried to understand how we can get the message across. And we sat down and we had a meeting, as always. And we tried to identify what is the time and which is the spot within the company when people work that are more relaxed and spend their more relaxed time. Any suggestions? Be bold in your answers. Coffee? Yep. After lunch? What? Yep, I'll give you the answer. The toilet. Really. And what we did, we prepared posters and we put them at the back of the bathroom door. So when people were there, they could see these fancy graphs. And that's how we managed to get the message across. And in 3 months' time, we changed the poster. And we are doing that now. We are on our 4th poster right now. And we see an increase on the number of emails that the IT department gets that worry staff. Of course, this brings the amount of work that the IT team needs to do much higher, but this is an indication that we are doing a good job. So, in order to keep that in your mind when you leave this room, think about bathroom cyber. So, our suggestion on a strategic level at Chatham House is that in order to achieve cyber hygiene, in order to achieve it for the maritime sector, but any other sector more or less, is to focus on 3 main pillars: the human factor, as we discussed, the infrastructure, and the procedures. It doesn't give you any leverage if you invest £1 million in state-of-the-art infrastructure, and the people at the reception desk, when they answer the phone, they give sensitive data away, they click on links on emails that they get. So you should invest in all these 3 pillars in order to be effective. Actually, this is not slide 165, but anyway. And this is not 166. So looking specifically at the maritime sector, the International Maritime Organization, back about a year ago, said that the best way to approach that is to look at risk management and to follow a risk-based approach in order to tackle the issue. Because no company, and you know that very well, no company can be 100% cyber-proof. So we need to be able to manage that. And I'm not going to go into details here, but the important thing is that look at the assets that you have. Like we previously said, your people, the processes, the tools, and the systems that you have on board. And try to manage all that. So cybersecurity should be in your mind about managing risk. How we can minimize, how we can identify risk, how we can minimize risk. But modeling cyber risk is difficult, not only for the shipping sector, but everywhere. Because first of all, there's no authoritative sort of source of data. We have seen that in other sectors, for example, regarding earthquakes, we do get data. There are authoritative regulatory, there are authorities that can provide us with this data in order to calculate the risk. The second difficulty is that, like we discussed previously, we should take into consideration not only technology, but us and the processes that include it. And it's difficult. It's not tangible. It's intangible to try and calculate that within a cyber risk model. And also, there are limited quantification models. There are qualitative models. You all have seen the famous green, yellow or orange and red regarding risk. But what does that tell you actually regarding numbers? There are specific tools out there, and this is a tool that's provided by the company that I consult, which is called Hudson Analytics, and it's a maritime risk management company, that try to tackle that issue. But again, this still needs a lot of work. Most of you are familiar here with the NIST framework, so I'm going to skip that. The important thing is that the shipping industry has adopted that and has introduced BIMCO, which is one of the biggest classification societies within the shipping industry, has introduced specific guidelines regarding cybersecurity, adopting the NIST framework more or less, and talks about the steps that need to be taken, not only as labeled here as cybersecurity awareness, but to tell you the truth, as cybersecurity strategy. And the important thing that we focus specifically for ships, and the thing that is different from what most of you are doing here, is the last two. You need to have established contingency plans. Yeah, you do too, I know. But you need to have that on the ship level. Because as I said at the beginning, if the ship is breached, you have only one IT infrastructure. And if that is affected, you have no connectivity with the ship. So you need to have contingency plans and be ready to respond on board a ship. And this is the challenge that the shipping industry is facing. A suggestion by the US Department of Homeland Security and Oxford University, adopted by Hudson, is to look at cyber capability maturity. I'm not going to trouble you a lot with theory, but what cyber capability maturity does is this. It takes you from the checklist approach of cybersecurity, we've done that, we've done that, we've done that, we're good, we're compliant, and it takes you to the last level where a third party comes in and checks and benchmarks what you have done, identifies your weaknesses and your strengths, and suggests the way forward, what you should do. And why you should do that? Because traditional cybersecurity minimizes the technology risk. But cyber maturity model gives you this, insurance, risk reduction. So it is important to try and work on that, to show to your insurance provider, your underwriter, that you are doing something efficient about cyber, so the premiums can be reduced. And this is a huge discussion in the shipping industry. It has been huge for ages. And I'm using here the tool that Hudson has introduced, which is called CyberLogics, and just to show you that we are looking at every single sector within every organization. We don't only go to the IT team, we don't only go to the C-suite, we look at everything within the company to try and identify what they have done, what should be done, and where they're strong at. And the final result, because I know most C-suite members really like these graphs, is this right here, which shows you in one page what you have been doing correctly and what you have been doing wrong. So the gray part is that you have not done anything about it, so you don't understand the risk. The red part is that you know that the risk is there, but nothing has been applied. And the good thing is the green one, as always. So you have specific numbers here and specific percentages to show you what you have been doing right and what you have been doing wrong. So you can prioritize where to spend your limited budget. But our overall approach on this is that it shouldn't be only, like I previously discussed, on the corporate level. We should look at two pillars, users and corporate, with the process part in it. So it's not only for the user part, for our part, it's not enough only to do awareness training programs that everyone does and everyone's happy, but we should train our staff on how to use the new technologies that we have introduced. Whereas simultaneously at the corporate level, we should use the knowledge and best practices from other sectors and try to think about cybersecurity by design. Try to think that when we build in the maritime sector new ships, we should ask for cybersecurity to be implemented from the design level. And that is how we will be able to look at cybersecurity as an ROI, as a return on investment. I have finished 6 minutes early, so I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any. Thank you so much.
Is there any questions before he goes? Can you see any? They're shy at putting their hands up now. They weren't like this 10 o'clock this morning. Any questions before we let him go? Yep, there's one there.
Well, to tell you the truth, the aviation industry, from what we have identified from our research, is a few steps ahead of the shipping industry, to put it nicely. And that is because the safety factor in the aviation case is much higher. So if an incident occurs, that will probably mean at a plane going down. Whereas at a ship, it may mean that it won't be able to maneuver or anything, but the consequences are much more severe than the aviation industry. So what I said in the previous slide used examples of different sectors. The first sector that we look at is the aviation sector. Any other questions?
How are you finding manufacturers helping you with your research? Because I do similar stuff that you do. Find a lot of manufacturers do not want their equipment and machinery being reverse engineered.
Well, the primary manufacturers, like the engine manufacturers, for example, for ships, have understood the problem. And they have understood it because the clients of the shipping companies now go to the shipping companies with cyber questionnaires. So giants like BP or Shell go to Greek shipping companies and tell them, what have you done about cyber? Can you fill out this specific questionnaire? And the problem that the IT shipping company staff have is that they cannot gain access to the manufacturer's products. They call them black boxes. But manufacturers are coming to grips with that. Yes, of course, they don't want anyone to touch on their stuff, but they are understanding that they should do something about it, and they are trying to implement, at least the leading ones in the industry, are trying to implement cybersecurity by design. We still have 3 more minutes. I know there's only one more speaker between me and lunch, so, yep. This one. You can take a photo if you want. I mean, it's.
Who are you finding are driving the actual cybersecurity, the implementation of it? Is it the shipping companies or is it the insurance companies?
That's a great question. In an ideal world, it would have been the international organizations, like the IMO. But because a lot of states are part of that, and because they're very slow in implementing things, as most international organizations, it is an industry-led initiative. And the companies are the ones that are leading it because they are being pressured from both sides. They're pressured, like I previously said, from their clients, like BP and Shell and other companies, but they're also pressured from the insurance part because they feel, and the discussions that I have had with all 3 parties, they feel that they don't have appropriate insurance in the event of a cyber incident. So in order to achieve that, they need to illustrate to both sides that they're doing something about cyber. So they are the ones that are leading it, but again, they have the problems with the manufacturers, so it is a loophole that we try to sort out.